helping rather than pulling it in the other direction. So
Right,
I
right.
understand the analogy.
Now, when that sock is no longer stretchy, it's stiff. Imagine spraying concrete around that sock, or maybe even pouring concrete into the sock. Okay, and now try to put your foot through it. It's not going to go through very easily, right? It's stiff. There's no stretchiness, and that's actually what happens as we naturally get older, and particularly when we're eating what is the so-called Western diet. Now, we can talk about that in more detail, but we eat a diet that's not so good for our circulation. What happens is that a blood vessel, let me just kind of give you a little more detail about the stretch. The reason a blood vessel can stretch has to do with how it's designed. A blood vessel has got different aspects of its wall. Cut a blood vessel in half and look at its cross section, and you'll see there's a thin lining on the outside. There's a little muscle on the beyond that, so the muscle can allow it to stretch. And on the inside, there's a lining of cells, very special cells called endothelial cells. Endo, because they're on the inside. Endothelial cells, these are the liner cells of a blood vessel. So think about saran wrap. That's how thin it is. Okay, lining the inside of your blood vessel.
Cling film for those of us in the UK.
Yep, clear film. That, by the way, so basically that's the blood vessel. The muscle helps it stretch. The wall helps it stretch. The clear sheet on the inside, that is a special layer. That layer is slippery. It's like the surface of an ice skating rink that's been polished and buffed before the first skaters get on it. And the reason that endothelial slippery layer is so important is because blood cells slide right along it. They don't stick.
Got it. So I'm sort of thinking now, I bet it's like you're in a tunnel, but all the walls are covered in, like, a bit like Teflon, I guess, on my pans or something, right? Like something very non-stick. Is that a way to
right
to think about this?
We'll have to talk about the Teflon in your pan from a healthy eating perspective.
Okay,
But yes, that's exactly what it is. And I use the idea of an ice skating rink because many people have, spent a winter holiday looking. It could be outdoors, it could be indoors as a skating rink, or just think about the Olympics, right? So when the ice is fresh and ready for the day's first skaters, it is slick, it is smooth,
and everything just starts at one end and goes all the way to the other end.
Yep. Take off your sweater and throw it on the ice, and it'll go all the way across the rink. Right now, as long as that lining is perfectly smooth, everything will glide right along. Now, what happens when you actually smoke a cigarette? Okay. The nicotine, the chemicals, the harsh chemicals, it damages that Teflon layer. It damages that liner, that transparent liner. Going back to the ice skating rink analogy, it would be like if you took a rake and you just raked the ice and scuffed it up. Now try to throw a sweater on it. It's just going to stick right there. It won't slide. And so that roughening up of the inner lining can actually make blood cells clot, stick, and form a clot. That is the beginning of the end. When I say the beginning of the end, that starts to narrow the blood vessel. The blood vessel starts to get stiffer. You don't actually have that stretchiness. Plaques, fat can actually build on the inside of the wall.
And what is a plaque, Will?
A plaque is a thickening. Like a plaque on your teeth is any kind of a thing that builds up on your teeth, right? So a plaque in a blood vessel is similar to what you would find in your teeth, but it's on the inside layer. And what it does is it makes it stickier, it makes it narrower, it makes it stiffer, all the things you don't want in a healthy blood vessel.
That makes sense. And I can see if I'm trying to deliver anything through this and it's starting to get more and more constricted, I mean, it's sort of obvious to a layman, right? It doesn't sound good if I'm trying to push something through and the pipe is getting more and more furred up. So is there I have a toothbrush for my teeth, right? For this situation with plaque. Is there a toothbrush in this situation, or is this a sort of one-way direction? This is just going to get worse and worse as we get older and we fur up these blood vessels?
Well, this is actually the most exciting thing. When I went to medical school, we thought it was a one-way street, meaning once you start narrowing and stiffening the blood vessels, the only way you could do it We used to think about it like a clogged toilet, right? Like we've all experienced that. Toilet's supposed to flush, goes all of a sudden it's not flushing anymore. It backs up. Terrible. What do you have to do? You actually have to like plunge it,
Call the plumber.
or
Yeah.
or you have to snake something down it to clear it, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so that's what I was taught when I was in medical school. You got to call the heart plumber, the cardiologist, the interventional cardiologist, who basically will stick a rotor-rooter, which is like a coil, in your groin, snake it up through the blood vessels in your groin into the blood vessels in your heart, and literally rotor-root it, like basically drill out that clog to clear the toilet.
So it is a bit like brushing your teeth. Well, fancier technology, but
Exactly. Well, and then of course it would clog back up. And so what they then invented in the medical world are stents, which are literally little Teflon or metal coated stents that would strut the blood vessel open, right? So sort of like a thin, like think about Mission Impossible. You get this little thin thing, you put it into the blood vessel, and then boom, it opens up, and now it's actually stenting open, forcing open the blood vessel. Now, that sounds good because you've solved the immediate problem of the lack of blood flow, but actually guess what? That actually also damages the natural elasticity, stretchiness of the blood vessels. So now you've got basically an iron tube stuck inside your blood vessels. That's not normal and that's not good. So then we developed statins, which are drugs aimed at actually lowering the amount of stuff that could clog, fatty deposits that can clog the plaque on the walls. Statins actually work pretty well. They work by metabolically lowering the amount of cholesterol and other lipids, fatty things that float around in your blood. If you've ever cooked bacon, you know that, after the raw bacon starts frying up and the wonderful bacony smell is in the air and you take the bacon out, you know that you're left with a pan of grease, right? Now you're going off eating your brunch or what have you. You come back to the pan after breakfast, and what do you actually have? You've got this congealed mess. Imagine that congealed, white, creamy, thick stuff, the bacon grease. Imagine that is actually sluicing through your blood.
doesn't sound good, right? Like nobody's going to suggest that this sounds like a good thing to be going on inside you.
No. And that's what statins were designed to do, is to sort of try to cut through that grease like a detergent and lower the levels in your blood. Sounds like a good idea. But here's the problem. Statins, which are capable of actually preventing the buildup to some extent, have a lot of side effects, actually. It's a $1 billion blockbuster area of pharmaceuticals, and many, many people are on them. But statins can damage your muscles, can damage your kidney, can damage your liver. There's all kinds of things. Every drug has an effect and the potential for a side effect or an unwanted effect. So not particularly a great solution. And frankly, people shouldn't take medicines. I'm a doctor. I was trained to write prescriptions, but my own practice, my own mindset of how to help a patient is really to try. If you are forced to give somebody a prescription, my goal has always been to figure out from the beginning when you're going to take the person off the prescription so they no longer need the drug. Now you need to find a different solution. So this is different than writing a prescription and putting somebody on a drug for the rest of their life, right? Like how many of us know people like that, or even doctors who actually think that way? My view is that medicines can be life-saving, but if you put somebody on a medicine, the goal, ideally, is to figure out how you're going from the beginning, when you're going to take them off it. So now research actually has then discovered that there are foods and lifestyle issues that can actually reverse all the things that damage the elasticity, the flow, that can block your circulation. I mean, we started at the very beginning, right? We just started saying, drop those marbles, they're stem cell, they haven't formed, and then they form and they work perfectly when you're a baby. And over the course of your life, during aging, and over the course of maybe less than salutary dietary habits, you're eating foods that are not so good for your circulation. You get the clogging, gets a cigarette smoke, damages that smooth ice, and now it's sticky. All right. Can we avoid stents? Uh, I think we can. Can we use drugs? Yeah, I think we can. But can we use diet and lifestyle to reverse that clogging? That prevent and reverse. That is actually what's remarkable, because science has now discovered it's possible to not rely on the drugs or the hardware that I was taught that doctors, the medical community, has to use.
About the impact of the gut microbiome and how that can be tied to body fat. And specific to that, one particular organism that is starting to